Hello, my YouTube family. This is the OG Crypto New Jack coming at you with some juicy news. But before I begin, let me say I'm not a financial advisor. Anything you see or hear in this video is for educational and informational purposes only and should not be considered as financial advice. Remember to do your own research and consult with a qualified professional before making investment decisions. All right, we're going to look at the crypto market cap, and it is coming in at 1.22 trillion, and it is up 0.6%. Coming in at number one is Bitcoin at 29,407. Coming in at number two is Ethereum at 1,843. Our beloved XRP is coming in number 5 at 63 cents. Here we have taken a look at crypto bubbles. It looks like HBAR is a top gainer, up 13.3%. We believe that's with the connection with FedNow service. Okay, moving on here to the Fear and Greed Index is coming in neutral at 53. And as you all probably have heard, Gemini has relisted XRP officially. It's official. And Jeremy Hogan put out, apparently the Gemini exchange isn't bothered by a little old request for an appeal. And last I checked, the Winklevoss brothers know a thing or two about legal proceedings. And I have to agree 100% because they did relist XRP and they put out this very bullish video. Gemini put out excited to announce XRP is now available for trading on Gemini. And here, Gemini, this is where I agree with Attorney Hogan, they don't give a fuck. They basically put the SEC, threw them on the ground and stomped on them. Here we go, let me play this video.
T-minus 7, 2, 5. We have liftoff.
Well, that's what we do. We fight. What do you want?
It's not that simple.
What do you want?
Are you stepping up on me, though, sir? KB.
They just basically gave the FU to the SEC. They are officially in the XRP army. Welcome aboard. And not only that, Gemini also put out, they are giving away 4,000 XRP every single day from last Friday, August 11th, to this Friday coming up, August 18th at 3 o'clock. They're giving out 4,000 XRPs, 20 at a time, first come, first serve. So there you have it. Welcome to the XRP army. Okay, Chad Steingraber, the Giants are going through American Express / Ripple. American Express have been quiet lately about the partnership. I expect that to change soon, and I agree. Now that XRP has been officially listed as a non-security by Judge Torres, maybe these NDAs can go away and we can start publicly hearing about the partnerships being implemented, hopefully in the very near future. This is from FinTech 2020. FinTech Week in 2020. Let me play the video.
American Express, etc., have been making huge investments and making collaborations to go online and support platforms and really enable merchants to go across continents seamlessly. We've seen recent collaborations such as the FinTech Wirecard working with Visa, and of course Ripple now also on our panel working with American Express. These are all signs that these giants are going there, and they are going to mostly focus on online payments, and this is the future.
So there you go. And that was from 3 years ago. So now that basically the XRP token has now been cleared, hopefully we can start seeing these partnerships being implemented. Okay, Chad Steingraber again, he writes, absolutely must listen, watch oil. Once that happens, the entire world will shift. BRICS, gold, digital currencies on new rails. The US will have only one answer, the Phoenix XRP. Let me play video.
He said, if the West inflates, the dollar drops, gold goes up, the BRICS win. If the West tries to do what the rest of the world is doing and accumulate gold, the dollar drops, gold goes up, the BRICS win. He said all they have to do, and I suspect they will, is to peg each BRIC currency redeemable, he says, to the governments. And I don't know about the people. The governments could redeem it in gold, and you win. And so that was the other thing that I took away from it, is that that's how simple it would be to disrupt this entire system. And he's pretty adamant that indeed, no matter what, this new system will be tied to gold. He is adamant about it. But what I take away from it more than anything is that all of the countries that represent the majority of human population moving against the West, two things. One, they're not going green, and Saudi Arabia has applied to all of these organizations who are now being protected by 2 of the 3 largest nuclear arsenals on the planet. And what most people don't know is the day we left Afghanistan in a very humiliating way in September of 2021, the day after that, and there was no coincidence in the timing, Russia and Saudi Arabia announced a joint military cooperation agreement. So what you take away from that is simply this. It has been our protection of the Saudi kingdom for the last 50 years that has given us the dollar hegemony and the petrodollar, and now Russia is protecting them. And by signing up with the BRICS and the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, now China is protecting them. They are being protected by the majority of human population, and he believes that as soon as all of the ducks are in a row, they will indeed make these announcements that they are going to accept oil in other currencies, and maybe it's the new BRIC settlement currency where each BRIC is worth an ounce of gold. What I took away from what he had to say are those two things: that indeed gold will have a role in the new system, and that the combination of those two groups with the BRICS makes them an incredibly, incredibly formidable foe. In fact, with a larger GDP than the West, a bigger military presence than the West, and the coalition of the majority of human population. It is something that needs to be understood. And the crime in all of this is that I guarantee you, there is a large portion of the people on this show where they did not know that gold was revalued tier 1. They've never heard of the Belt Road Initiative. They've never heard of the Shanghai Cooperation Organization. They didn't know that Russia signed a military agreement with Saudi Arabia, which in and of itself is what has given us the petro status. These are new developments to people who are very well informed, some of you out there. And I think that is the crime in all of this, is that we are being set up for a major shift in the way that the world transacts and settles energy, and it will be to the detriment of this country, and people need to be aware of it and need to follow this progression. And that's more or less what Jim says. Now, he said,
oh, yes, that's exactly true. I believe, just like Digital Outlook states, that the petrodollar is dead. We just haven't had the funeral yet. I 100% agree with that. Okay, moving on. Shout out to the digital asset investor. He writes, this is why they're really freaked out by the Ripple ruling. How does the ruling apply to consensus sales? How does it affect the entities and the people who bought it? And here is the big man himself, BG, Brad Garlinghouse, putting Joseph Lubin in his place, because he tried to get a little smart, and he had to put him in his place, in a very professional way, but let him know that he's not doing much better. And Brad just hits him with the truth. Here we go.
So, but you do sell it regularly, right? Don't you sell it into market?
About that. How much do you sell?
When necessary. Sure.
And I think, look, I'm talking about transparency because I think the whole industry to mature, we need to be transparent in the industry. Ripple, I think, is trying to lead by example with that. I think there's other ecosystems that I have no idea what's going on in those ecosystems, and I don't think that's good for the whole industry, so I think that's bad for Ripple too. The only interjection I have here is I find it interesting that Ripple is attacked for being transparent because we are very proactive, and we put, actually, the next XRP markets report, which will be quarterly, will come out sometime into this week. But because we share that information, we're attacked for it, yet other platforms don't share that information, and so they are insulated from those same critiques and criticisms. I think in the dictionary that's called hypocrisy. I'm not 100% sure, but it's close.
Is there any plan for greater transparency within Consensus in terms of how it deploys its Ethereum?
Internally, sure. And we're a private company, and we
Ripple's
are
a private company too.
Absolutely. And transparency is important to us. But we also have to be strategic about information that we release.
A person can buy from any number of different identities. We may limit the unit size of a sale, just to make it easier to disguise. Let's say if you're a whale and you want some privacy, you can buy 50,000 units, and so nobody scares people with an enormous initial purchase. So if you are a whale, if you want to plan on investing several million US dollars worth, then you can do that in multiple identities.
You can do that in multiple identities.
So, but you do sell it regularly.
I think we need to look into that one. Okay, moving on. This is Paul Grohl, Coinbase's chief legal officer. Right? I never understood the logic that seeking advice to comply with the law is proof of an intent to break the law. Sometimes, maybe most times, it's actually the opposite. And I have to agree with that. That's just the backwards way of thinking by the SEC. Okay, moving on. Shout out to Riz XRP. It is clear XRP is not a security. This is Rob Paul.
Some very interesting news out of the USA that XRP has been deemed not a security. So just what's your hot take on this situation?
I mean, we thought the good news coming was going to be the ETF. We knew this was in the background. I always had a decent probability that this was going to happen, but it dropped like a bomb today, and XRP is up 75% in a day. But what it does is it shows that the regulators are overreaching. Now, we don't have that around elsewhere in the world because most of the regulators elsewhere have been reasonably decent about crypto, but the US was the one that weren't. Gensler was really attacking the space. So what that's done is unleashed so many of the larger alt tokens that launched in similar ways to XRP that should not be deemed a security, and that's going to make the space more investable. At the margin, it allows others to enter into the space. We saw XRP get relisted by Coinbase immediately. Okay, that's a big statement. It means that institutions will be more comfortable around it. That allows more people into the space. So people who might have been nervous of Solana or some of the others may look at this now and say, look, the probability of those being called a security is now becoming much smaller by the day, and therefore the risk profile of owning these things is much lower.
Exactly. Okay, moving on from there. Shout out to Riz XRP again, the Ripple Effect. Eric Van Miltenberg from Ripple. We play the video.
So a fair question is great. Well, you just said you can move value across the blockchain. Why not use Bitcoin? There's more of it. It's kind of the standard, if you will, in terms of market cap and everything else. I'm a fan of Bitcoin. I think that the store of value and what it does serves a great purpose. But when you think about Bitcoin versus XRP for a specific use case, the one that we're engaged with, and that's settling real payments, we're a little biased, but we think that XRP stands out really well. we use a different way to validate transactions. Some of you follow the space at all know that Bitcoin leverages something called proof of work, where there's miners around the world that use tons and tons of compute power to solve a mathematical puzzle that ultimately validates the transaction. As a result, you see on the left-hand side, there's some ramifications of that. To settle a transaction actually takes a long time. This used to be hours. When Bitcoin was surging, it was days, and it's down to 45 minutes. It still goes up and down. I forget if this was last month, but it's relatively recent. I won't read down the list, but in terms of transactions, number of transactions, so throughput, the amount of energy required, the Bitcoin makes sense, but if you're trying to serve that high volume, low value payments use case, it really isn't the asset to use. It just doesn't line up to enable the right end user experience and the right economics. And therefore, XRP was developed by the same folks that founded Ripple. It was actually developed before Ripple was founded, but they had been early on in the Bitcoin space, and they saw some of the things that were deficient about Bitcoin, the scaling challenges, the energy consumption, and so they devised a different validation mechanism called consensus that results in sort of the metrics you see on the right-hand side that we think line up much better for the payments use case.
Exactly. It was never Bitcoin, even though Bitcoin was good for what it was, but XRP is the standard. Moving on. Raise XRP, change your business model, or you will be cannibalized. Their words. And that's the words of Christine Lagarde. And it's true. They either need to adopt, and not just XRP, there's a lot of good things in the space, XRP, XLM, Algorand, HBAR, you name it, but you can't keep using Swift, and XRP and Ethereum are just too slow, too expensive. But you either gotta change your business, or as Christine Lagarde said, get cannibalized. Let me play the video.
Are cannibalized because they're not seeing it coming and they're not embracing it. And those who self-induce that cannibalization, and I'm using cannibalization on purpose because it's a bit of a striking, horrible word, but it's really what it means. It's you're going to disrupt your business model, you're going to change it, you're going to reduce your cost, you're going to expedite your transactions, and you're going to continue to inspire confidence because you will build that on the basis of an existing backbone, which is your bank and the confidence relationship that you've established with your customers. So that's where I see changes happening now. If you think of Circle and Ripples and all those, that's where they are active and helpful. But it will be between the...
Exactly. Okay, moving on. Here we have Riz XRP again. Ripple's been at it for over 10 years. Institutions are ready. Don't get shaken out. And that's true. When everything gets implemented, Ripple XRP is going to take the lion's share only because they've been around the longest. Just the way Bitcoin is seen as a store of value, and that's probably going to be going on for a while, is because it's been around the longest. It's been around since 2009. It has the history, and so does Ripple. They're going to have two different use cases: Bitcoin store of value, and Ripple XRP, or XRP, the token itself, is going to be used for transactions, their speed, and can't wait for that to be all implemented. Here we go.
Earliest days, because we've been at this for quite a while, the company's been around a little over 10 years, we were bringing our customers on this crypto journey. And so earliest days, folks were quite conservative, hesitant to embrace the new technology, and there was uncertainty on the regulatory front and so forth. In recent years, with regulatory development, so in different jurisdictions, Brazil is a good one, Europe has been mentioned today, Japan, UAE, etc., of clear rules are being outlined, and so the uncertainty has been removed and the sort of foundation for innovation has been laid. With that, big players, Stripe, Amazon, Visa, MasterCard, everybody's come out with their crypto sort of strategies, and I think that will embolden wave after wave of the next sort of round of institutions to embrace. So specifically, people can come and talk to us, come talk to me about how we can help you with adoption. But I think more broadly, there's a little bit more regulatory certainty to come. It's much better even now versus even just the past few years. And with that comes sort of big name institutional adoption that I think will be encouraging for others that might have been on the fence. Earliest days.
Well, folks, those institutional waves are definitely about to start coming and hitting the shore. Here we go. Okay, Warren Davidson, he put out central bank digital currency, CBDC, is evil, the financial equivalent of the Death Star. Don't become an accomplice to anyone designing, building, testing, developing, or establishing a CBDC. But I kind of agree with that, but at the same time, I disagree, because he, as a lawmaker, can enact laws to keep it from being that evil CBDC and doing doing good for humanity. As with any technology, it can be used for both evil and good. He has the position to make sure it gets used for good. So he threw some shade at Ripple, because that was a blanket statement about CBDCs. But here, Mark Phillips tweets out, Rep. Warren Davidson showed his cards. And this is the quote from Warren Davidson. The creepy thing I don't like about Ripple is they are helping governments develop CBDCs, which is evil. Interesting, he waited until XRP had legal clarity to throw shade on Ripple and XRP. What are his ties to ETH? And I'm not saying there is ties, there isn't. All I'm saying is he needs to get more knowledge in the space, and he has the position in Congress to make sure that these CBDCs are used for good purposes. And on that note, Digital Asset Investor writes, hey, Warren Davidson, I don't remember hearing you say that Joseph Lubin and Consensus were creepy and evil the way you said Ripple was. They're working on CBDCs too. And here is the video.
So Consensus is doing a bunch of work on central bank digital currency projects with different central banks around the world. There's significant interest. It's hard to say adoption at this point because it's still early for central banks. Some are further along than others, but the Ethereum technology is in the lead, in my opinion, in terms of interest from central banks. BIS is doing some work to link up different CBDC projects, or at least facilitate linking at some point in the future. And it'll be really interesting if and when these nation-state money systems connect up to permissionless smart contract platforms, potentially. And it may be the case that, let's say, the Federal Reserve token could be permissionlessly mirrored and wrapped on Ethereum, for instance.
I don't think so, buddy. Ethereum, too slow, gas fees, too expensive. Nice try. Okay, moving on. Shout out to Will Chart, thereby breaking Ripple and Reserve Bank of New Zealand to discuss CBDC on XRPL. Exactly. That's where they're going. They know we've been around the longest, cheapest and fastest, best option. That's where it's going. Okay, moving on. Shout out to iSocial 122. Ripple derivatives partner, ISTA 300 trillion is a new common domain model is designed to support DLT. Exactly. Nice. Okay, shout out to John E. Dean. He writes, the SEC argues that Torres' ruling could impact other lawsuits, which are of similar nature. This is the weakest of the SEC's arguments, in my opinion. And in fact, the Rakoff decision in Terra proves the argument fails. A district court judge can clearly distinguish the Torres ruling on summary judgment after the evidence has been presented from other cases. Plus, that argument would apply every single time the SEC or any other government agency, C2C, EPA, DOJ, loses a decision. Exactly. They don't have a leg to stand on. Okay, moving on. Jeremy Hogan, a senator filing an amicus brief stating that the SEC has exceeded its authority as given to it by the Senate. First, that is very compelling. Second, wow, that is my legal analysis. And that is in regards to the SEC versus Coinbase lawsuit. And Meta Lawman put this thing out. Senator Cynthia Loomis, a Republican from Wyoming, just filed an amicus brief supporting Coinbase's motion to dismiss the SEC's complaint. Senator Loomis is a co-sponsor of the Loomis-Gillibrand crypto regulation bill. Loomis's brief argues that 1, Congress has not granted the SEC authority to regulate crypto assets. Number 2, defining the contours of crypto regulation in this country is a job for Congress and not the SEC. Number 3, the SEC's claim that virtually all crypto assets are security exceeds the SEC's authority, encroaches on Congress's lawmaking, and contravenes the separation of powers. And putting a new spin on the regulation by enforcement term, Senator Loomis declares that the SEC cannot legislate by enforcement. Excellent work by the lawyers at Jenner and Block. Well said, well done, and kudos to Senator Cynthia Loomis and that law firm she used, because this is very powerful. This is not just Coinbase saying that the SEC is overreaching. This is a sitting senator saying, we did not give you this authority. And she's a sitting senator, and that gives it a lot more weight, that argument. Okay, moving on from there. This is Evernote, and this is their X account, no trust line, no support. So apparently there's a lot of Evernote imposters. Make sure you're at the right site. They are doing an airdrop for all XRP holders. And the snapshot is going to be Friday, 1st of September at 6 p.m. And if you want to look it up, you can see, but apparently you don't have to do anything. As long as you have it on your own device where you hold the keys, it cannot be on an exchange. So if you have Ledger, Decent, Trezor, Arculus, whichever, it doesn't matter. As long as you have it in your own warm or cold storage wallet where you control the keys, the Zum wallet as well, so Sologenics, it doesn't matter. As long as you control the keys, you're fine. And then there'll be a step 2 that will come later on, probably months later, but If you have it on an exchange, you have to move it to your own wallet where you keep the keys, and you'll be fine. Okay, moving on. DHN Crypto put this thing out. FedNow has added another company to its services provider showcase. Micropayments company Drop. Drop enables micropayments in HBAR USD and USDC. This means banks in the US looking for micropayment services can now use Hedera technology. Drop will enable real-time payments through FedNow, process customers' credit transfers, and handle incoming payments. Not all service providers can do both, which means HBAR Tech has a higher standing in this case, and that is good to see. Love to see the crypto space growing, and it's not just XRP. There's going to be several that are going to be doing well as adoption takes place. Love to see it. Okay, moving on. Here we have Kang Space. They write, don't wait till it happens. These are most of the exchanges that are holding XRP. And according to this chart, it says here, less than 11.3% of XRP supply is available. So not a lot, especially when you start thinking about the institutional money that's coming in. That's not a lot of XRPs. Okay, moving on. We had the digital asset investor again. What is CODIUS? And I believe this is Kendra Hill who answered the question. What is CODIUS? CODIUS is the most advanced smart contract platform that will ever exist. The project was said to be put on hold in 2015. That was a lie. It was never put on hold. CODIUS will be smart contracts with integrated payment processing and a variety of privacy options. One more time, CODIUS will be a smart contract platform that offers multiple privacy options if required and payment processing integration. No other platform can compare. No other platform will have a direct connection to the world banking system. XRP and CODIUS are going to be used to manage the entire $1 quadrillion derivatives market. XRP is not a currency. It is a store of value, digital gold. I have a notebook with Ripple's entire agenda. And finishing off here, David Schwartz, he writes, I'm still trying to revive it. The technological pieces we were missing exist now, and I think there are some demonstrated market needs that it can address. I wish I could say more, but this is probably more than I should be sharing. So this is something that, from what I reading through the tea leaves here, it looks like CODIUS could be on his way back. And when it does, and all this institutional money comes in, the bull run next year after the Bitcoin halving, we could be looking at some really good times. And I just can't wait for that future to get here. Well, okay, fam, that's going to do it for today's video. If you found this video to be helpful, would you please smash a like and subscribe? I would really appreciate it. And it doesn't cost you anything. Thank you much in advance. And in the words of Snoop Dogg, keep your mind on your money and money on your mind. Peace out, fam.